Hey, everybody, this is Benji Bruce, and in this podcast, we are going to talk about creating momentum, building momentum. And I really think this is the psychological factor that makes success inevitable. When you can build momentum inside of you and inside of your business, it makes success inevitable. The definition of momentum, and I know this because I looked it up, right? So the definition of momentum is the impetus gained by a moving object. And impetus, it means force. And I know that because I looked that up too. And so momentum is the force gained by a moving object. Now, the problem is that most people, they just don't get things done, or they start doing something, then they stop immediately. And this happened to me several times when I was living with a friend and I was trying to prospect. I was trying to get business as an entertainer. Originally, I created a lot of momentum, and I was in this small room. I knew I had to get business. I knew I had to make money, so I was kind of motivated. And I said, "All right, let me figure out how to get some prospects. Let me figure out how to get some clients, get on stages." And so I scheduled every part of my day, literally every single part of my day. I mean, I even tried to schedule the bathroom breaks. And so by doing this, I started creating momentum. And then for some reason, I don't know why, I just stopped, right? I just stopped doing it. I stopped scheduling my days, and slowly that momentum, it just slowly came to a stop. And it was hard to get it back. And the same happened with Facebook ads. I remember when I did Facebook ads, I was doing, at first I started like $5 a day, then $10, then 20, then 100, then 300, 400. And eventually one day I just stopped doing the ads, right? I said, you know what, let me just stop this for a little bit. Let me change up the website. Let me improve a couple things. And then it took me like 2 months to get it going again. Not because I was doing anything wrong, but just because I stopped the momentum. And then all of a sudden, when I wanted to start it again, I would come up with another excuse. I'd say, you know what? I actually got to create a little bit more content. I got to start filming a couple more videos before I start the ads again. I got to make sure that the website is a little bit better this time before I start the ads again. And so I would do that just constantly in terms of I just created momentum. I stopped, and then it was hard to start up again. And so with momentum, though, it's like you're pushing a boulder, like this big rock, right? And you're trying to push this rock. In the beginning, it's really hard to get it going. Eventually, when you start pushing, it's really easy. And this momentum is what actually creates the force that you need to build your business. The same with the rock. It's the momentum that just makes it easy. And when you stop, when you slow down, it gets harder. It gets harder on you when you stop or when you slow down. You need to think speed. You need to go fast. You need to build this momentum, because momentum, it makes you an unstoppable force. It makes you obsessed by generating thoughts because you have to keep up. When you have this momentum going inside of your business or inside of you, you feel obsessed by all these thoughts that are popping up inside of your head, and you have this sense of urgency. It's like you say, oh man, I know we got to do Facebook ads. We got to create content. We got to make sure the funnel's good. Oh, we got to do prospecting. Oh, oh man, and you're excited. You have this momentum going inside of you, this sense of urgency. And so you don't want to stop. You don't want to slow down. It's one of the reasons why you hear with so many entrepreneurs, like all these top entrepreneurs, where they get pissed off when people go really slow, because inside of them, they're this boulder. They're this big boulder with a lot of momentum, and everyone else is just freaking slow. Like everyone else, they stop their momentum. And so when you have someone who's in an unstoppable force with all this momentum, this sense of urgency going, and you put them around people without this sense of urgency, that entrepreneur, he gets pissed off. He's like, hey, don't you guys understand? It's all about momentum. You got to have this sense of urgency. And you get excited and you feel like you can and you should do more, because your thoughts, they just keep coming to you. You got to keep up. You're like, man, I got to freaking keep up with this business. Like, come on now. And so what I noticed is that when I would go out for walks, like around, I don't know, at nighttime or whatever, when it wasn't so hot in Vegas, I would just go out for walks, right? And whenever you go out for a walk, what happens, like with your brain and everything, you get more oxygen and all this stuff, and it's good for you, right? And so at the very end of the walk, I mean, it's nighttime, and all of a sudden I would feel like, you know what? I got to do some more stuff. I got to get back to work. I got to do some more, because all this oxygen was in my brain. It's like they call like a runner's high. I wasn't running or anything, but even just walking, it had all this extra oxygen in my brain. And I felt like I can and should be doing more just from a walk in and of itself. And the same thing happened when I would do these calls. So I would do these group calls to help people with marketing. And I decided to choose a Sunday, right? So I chose a Sunday, and during these group calls, as I would talk to people and I would help them with their marketing, whether it was a website, ads, prospecting, whatever it was, when I would help them with their marketing, I would get excited at the end of the day. So at the very end of the call, I'm like, man, oh man, I just got done talking with all these guys. I gotta start doing some more. I gotta hustle hard. I'm telling these guys to hustle hard. I gotta start hustling more. And so I would feel all this momentum just because I was on these calls and I would help these people out with their marketing. And so that's why, well, that's what you need to do in terms of your business. Think from the standpoint of momentum. And I would always think of it like this, right? So Einstein created the equation. Well, he found the equation E equals mc squared. And what that means is energy becomes mass. Now, and by the way, if that's not really what it means, if you're like a freaking scientist or if you're like Stephen Hawking or something, then I don't care if it's not right. I mean, let me believe in Santa Claus right now. But to me, E equals mc squared means energy becomes mass. And so under the right conditions, energy can become mass and vice versa. And so what I always thought is, all right, so the energy that you have, all the energy inside of you, the energy that you have, it can become something physical. This energy you have, this sense of urgency you have, it can become something. And so the first time I felt like this was when I actually wrote my book. My first book, it was a restaurant magic book. So I would do all this restaurant magic for years. Ever since I was 13, I would perform in restaurants. I made all this money in restaurants. And then one day I said, you know what? Let me write a book teaching all these other entertainers how to do it, how to get restaurants, how to perform in restaurants, how to do the business side. And so I took all these thoughts from my head and I wrote it into a book. And the thoughts that were in my head became this physical manifestation. It became a book, a physical manifestation of what was inside of my head. And I always thought like, man, this is like E equals mc squared. I mean, energy, the thoughts inside of my brain, which is basically energy, it became mass. It became this book. It became something physical. And it never existed before until it did. And that's how I've always thought of things, where it's like E equals mc squared. I don't really think of this like woo-woo stuff. I think in terms of science and physics. And science says E equals mc squared. And so I always thought, all right, it was inside my brain. I turned it into something physical. Energy becomes mass. And that's why it's so important to create the momentum, because this momentum is just pure energy that's built up inside of you. And when you have this pure energy built up inside of you, you can turn it into something physical. You can build a business out of it. You can do what you want out of it. And this is why I tell people you got to get into the habit of making decisions. Because decisions, it allows you to focus on creating that momentum. And so you won't make the right decision all the time. There's no possible way to make the right decision all the time. So what you have to do is you get into the habit by thinking of speed first. And then you worry about being right later on. Because you can fix wrong decisions. But if you're stuck, if you don't make a decision, then you're just going to be stuck there forever. I mean, so what happens is when you get into the habit of making decisions, you start building momentum. You start creating momentum because you say, you know what? I got to film some videos. Maybe I don't have the perfect camcorder right now. I'm just going to pull out my phone and just start recording videos. You know what? I got to do a podcast. I don't have the greatest mic right now, but you know what? I'm just going to pull out my phone and use a mic on my phone right now. And I'll just get some stuff later on. And so what you're doing is you're just making a decision. You just decide. And through that decision, you're starting to create that momentum. And it's just like you're pushing a big rock, a big boulder. Like in the beginning, it's just one push at a time. I mean, it's really hard. And so then all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier. And so with decisions, you have to imagine that each decision you make is just one push on this big boulder. And you just start making decisions. Eventually, you get so used to making a decision that you build up all this momentum and it just becomes easier as time goes on. And so it's one of the reasons why excuses and reasons tend to destroy momentum. And this is why I tell people, hey, you either make money or you make excuses. You can't do both. And when people come up with excuses, it destroys, absolutely destroys their momentum because it just forces them to stop. I was reading this book on P.T. Barnum. P.T. Barnum, he's the greatest showman ever, right? He's the guy who created the Barnum and Bailey Circus and among other things. And one of the first things that he did in order to become P.T. Barnum is he didn't create reasons or excuses for why he can't do something. So what happened was there was this I think she was like 161 years old, 161-year-old lady, right? Well, at least that's what she claimed to be. And so I think her name was like Joyce Heth or something. And so she was going to cost, and by the way, this was like way back in the 1800s. And so this was back in the slavery days. And so she cost a certain amount of money. And P.T. Barnum didn't have that money. And he could have said, you know what, I don't have the money to buy her and to use her for a show, for creating a show or something like that. I just don't have the money. Oh, this sucks. He could have said that, but he figured out a way to get the money. I mean, he was in no excuses mode. And this is what a lot of entrepreneurs do, to where entrepreneurs, they don't have the money. They just figure out a way to get the money. And there are two types of people. There's the person who says, man, you know what? I don't have the money. You know what? I don't know how to build websites. You know what? I don't have the microphone. You know what? I don't have the camera. There are those entrepreneurs. Well, they're not really entrepreneurs. Then there are the guys who say, you know what? I don't have it, but I'm going to figure out how to get it. And so that's what P.T. Barnum did. He basically would iterate his way to success, because what happens is you use this momentum, and the momentum allows you to figure things out later on. You may not know the answer yet, but the momentum just makes you decide. You say, all right, you know what? I just got to do something. Let's decide, and then we'll figure it out later. And a lot of people tend to say, you know what? Like when people come up with excuses, they say, you know what? It's about quality. Or they say, you know, I got to do it right the first time. That way we don't have to keep changing it. And so what happens is nothing, like absolutely nothing happens in their life, because they're so used to not making decisions. They're so used to not building up any type of momentum that nothing happens inside of their life. And so momentum is created when you feel like you're on a mission. Like you're on a mission to do something, to create something. And people, they say like set goals. You hear all this stuff about setting goals, because setting goals puts you on a mission. You say, you know what? I have a goal of doing $1 million this year. And bam, you're on a mission. You say, you know what? I have a goal of doing this thing. Bam, you're on a mission. It's why so many people talk about goals, because this mission, the goals, it creates momentum, this forward momentum. And you just have to get out and do something. Remember, the definition of momentum is the force gained by a moving object. You want to become the moving object that turns ideas into reality through practical execution.